Hey, what's going on, everybody? So, if you haven't been paying attention or if you don't know by now, basically, Cuban Gooding Jr. has been indicted and he's in the New York courtroom facing several charges. Basically, the charges are sexual in nature, right? I think it may be worded to describe him as a serial groper, right? So, basically, there's about 22 women who are accusing Cuban Gooding Jr. of inappropriately touching them, but not all of those 22 women are charging Cuban Gooding Jr. Some of the women who accuse him of this conduct are in a situation where the case is too old or they're in a different state. However, the prosecutors in the New York case is going to try to use testimony as much testimony from these women as possible. And I think this is called using a person as a Molyneux witness, right? Which basically allows you to use witness testimony to establish a pattern of bad behavior. So there are currently two women who are actually pursuing Cuban, and the first woman I believe is actually can be seen in the video where she's sitting down talking to Cuban Gooding Jr. while he's relaxing with his girlfriend, and it looks to me like she touches him and he touches her, and she's saying that this touching was non-consensual, right? Or she's alleging that this touching is non-consensual. And then there's another video floating around out there on the internet where it appears that Cuban is in some sort of restaurant or some type of eatery, and he's walking by. And as he walks by, it looks like he touches a woman with his index finger just above her buttocks, right? So the woman objects, and then this emboldens Cuban. He's like, "Well, you don't want me to touch you. I'm gonna touch you anyway." And he goes and touches her several times. It gets to the point where he has to be stopped. So that woman is actually pursuing Cuban Gooding Jr. in courts. So now to me, it looks like the first video shows consensual touching, and it looks like the second video shows Cuban touching a woman to get her attention or in some odd way or odd goofball type of way to maybe compliment her. Now, it's kind of crazy to me because I believe that touching is a form of nonverbal communication. Of course, there's probably going to be a very thin line between touching and groping or touching a woman in a sexual way without her consent. The one thing I like to know for you is that to me, it just seems like touching is a form of nonverbal communication. And I'm old school, and to me, it just seems like with the old school mentality, it's okay to touch a person to get their attention, or it used to be. It's not anymore, obviously. But it used to be that it was okay to touch a person to get their attention. It used to be that if you were dancing with a person, it would be acceptable to touch that person. It used to be that it was okay to touch a person to get their attention or to pass on some other nonverbal communication, right? But this seems not to be the case anymore. So let me know what you think. Do you think there's certain situations where it's okay to touch a person to get their attention, or do you think it's okay to touch a person to basically show empathy? I've had women touch me during conversation. I don't know why they touch me, but to me, it just seems like when a person touches you in certain situations, they're letting you know that they're like you, and it's unrealistic for me to try to basically sue them because they touch me, right? Because we're having a conversation and they reached out and they touched me. I'm confused with all this stuff, right? So I want to hear from you. I want to know what you think. Is it okay to touch a person in certain situations? Leave your question comments below.